Bianca Belair is back at WrestleMania facing Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. We're going to talk about her journey back to WrestleMania in just a second, so stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. As always, accompanied by my tag team partner, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will.
That's right.
Bianca Belair is going back to WrestleMania. Bianca Belair defeated, I think, 5 other women in the Elimination Chamber in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia over the weekend and has booked her ticket to face Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm glad to see Bianca back where she belongs at the forefront and as number one contender for Becky's championship. I think the way it's been done actually with their whole thing since SummerSlam has actually been done well. There were questionable parts, and some of the stuff that we were questioning in terms of, her not getting a rematch straight away and all this kind of stuff and having to go to the back of the line kind of thing. But I think it's played out in a way that makes complete sense and makes Bianca even more legitimate, which we didn't even think was possible. Legitimate as the number one contender for that championship, to the point where even Becky Lynch can't deny or have any excuse or make any other suggestions about trying to avoid her and all that kind of thing. It just played out perfectly. My one worry now is, what are we going to get for the next 6 weeks? Because in terms of, how we've seen things play out this time last year with Bianca and Sasha, and the other stuff that we had with Bianca and Bailey, a lot of it was questionable and it felt as if it was carried on for too long, or the creative just wasn't quite there to sustain us for that amount of weeks. How are you seeing this one play out? Are you excited? Are you nervous in terms of the 6 weeks? Not so much the match itself, but the 6 week leading to the match.
Firstly, like you said, I felt like they have handled this very, very well. Obviously, Becky came back with a bang, won the championship. They've kept Bianca, as hot as Becky, basically. She's kind of doing things away from the title. She's kind of went toe-to-toe with Doudrop to kind of see, who's the number one contender. She's proved to Doudrop, who was complaining that Bianca gets a lot of opportunities, that she's the one, she's deserving of these opportunities. She then, had her the little love affair with the likes of Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan is a baby face, just like Bianca, but she's proved to Liv Morgan as well, overcome Rhea Ripley when she came out of her tag team, overcame all the women in the Elimination Chamber. It's what it should be. I think it's what we all expected. Bianca was very emotional. I don't know if you've seen any of the scenes from the Saudi show.
Yeah.
And the post stuff, the online interviews on the WWE.com. Very emotional in literally how she cried for winning the Royal Rumble. she's cried for winning the Elimination Chamber. And it's funny because it's not comparable, but Bianca's not like a wrestling person originally, so maybe she just thinks these are all big grandioso. Yes, cry when you win the Royal Rumble, but the Elimination Chamber, I was like, are you all right? But no, you love the emotion, you love to see it actually mean something to them. And we were saying last week, that this is another notch, another feather in the cap in terms of what she's achieved. So they've done this very, very well. Like you said, the next 6 weeks is the is the real test.
Mm.
We saw it kind of drag on last time. I feel Becky has enough about her, and not to say that Sasha doesn't,
Right.
but Becky is really doing something, and I don't think a lot of people are giving her credit for it. Like every time she's been on commentary, she was last night on Raw for a Bianca match. She sells the hell out of Bianca. Like the minute Bianca does a punch, an acrobatic move, a flip, or anything like that, her face drops like, oh my God, how did she do that? And stuff like Becky is really putting over Bianca at every given opportunity. So I know they kind of went down the road with Sasha and Bianca of all their friends, and then, you know, can they coexist? And then no, they can't coexist. And now the match. With Becky, there's a lot of history there. Even Becky saying that, you know, you're the reason fans don't like me anymore because I beat you. You were the golden girl sort of thing. I just feel there's a lot more there this time. And both women will have something to really prove, because we could assume Roman and Brock will main event night two. Charlotte and Ronda will main event night one. So they're going to have to fit this match in as maybe one of these co-main events.
I think it might be. I think it could be an opener for the second night.
Maybe that works. But yeah, it's the whole point of, right, we're not going to main event, so wherever we're going to be on the card, we need to steal the show. And I feel that's the kind of program and match we're going to get from these guys. So I am a lot more optimistic this time around. And yeah, hopefully at the end of it, we see Bianca walk away with the Raw Women's Championship.
I think it definitely helps there being a very recent animosity in history in terms of the storyline and the content that they kind of have to work with. I think what we didn't get with Bianca and Sasha last year wasn't so much there wasn't a story. It was just that creative just didn't pull the lever on what was quite obvious to do. There was a missed opportunity maybe with Reggie. We were waiting for the real combustible thing to happen. It was very awkward. And I don't think that was anything to do with the ladies themselves, but more so to do with the lack of direction it felt as though they had to work with. Luckily, as you said, Becky's got more to her and, more about her in terms of promo and, having that ability. I don't think she'll necessarily need that direction. That's where it helps with Becky, which will then spur on Bianca. And I think, it's been a year now, and, Bianca's just better at doing that kind of thing on her own as well, or been given not even so much better, but I guess she's kind of been given a little bit more freedom to be able to do that. Whereas before it was kind of like, all right, what do I do? Am I allowed to do what I want to do? Or used to doing maybe back in NXT, all that kind of thing. She's still kind of finding her feet. It was her first time being, going to WrestleMania and all that kind of thing. Speaking of her going back to WrestleMania, I think that's what the emotion was. It wasn't winning the Elimination Chamber. It was she's going to WrestleMania. But yeah, man, and it's great to still see that authentic emotion as well. It's not put on, and I think it's a massive reason why so many people and we love Bianca. There was a question I was about to ask you as well. You mentioned, what did you say? Sugar, it's gone, it's lost, it's gone. There's something that you said. And I was like, yo, that's a great question to ask. But hopefully it'll come back to me. In terms of Becky's, actually, that was the question. In terms of where they're at on the card, or where they may end up on the card, with it not being the final match, or it's not going to be the main event on whichever night, do you think that's then less pressure on them? Or, obviously with Bianca being the final match on night one last year, Becky's been there before as the final match. Do you think it's less pressure on both of them being in a position where they kind of have to steal the show, but they don't have to, if that makes sense?
I wouldn't say less pressure, like
Mm.
you just suggested. I think, and I agree. I think the opening the second night would be a fantastic position for them. You know, close off the first night with women, open the second night with women.
Yeah,
Don't put those two championship matches on the same card.
definitely.
And if you're opening a big show like WrestleMania, that's pressure.
Mm.
Like
Mm, mm, mm,
that's
mm,
gonna
mm,
be a
mm,
high pressure
mm.
situation. But you know, Mania goes live, they do the national anthem, all that stuff. First music
Mhm,
that hits is Bianca. The challenger comes out, gets the place
mhm,
rocking. Becky comes out, another big star, and they
mhm.
put on a blockbuster of a match. I have no doubt that they put on a great match. So yeah, there's pressure, but I feel like it's both of their characters. It's very much we hear it with wrestlers all the time. Okay, I'm not the main event, so I need to just basically kidnap this show anyway and make it my
Right,
own. And you see
right,
what I
right,
mean?
right, right.
And
Exactly.
put everyone else that's after me under pressure to
Mhm,
prove why
mhm,
this match should have been the main event. So it's
mhm,
pressure they'll put on themselves. If they're opening the
mm.
show, I always think, yeah, that's pressure.
Yeah.
But nothing that these guys can't deal with, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. They're very much now, especially, we already know we've seen Becky for a while. Obviously, Bianca's kind of still, I guess, fresh to the main event scene. As
Mm.
much as she's achieved so many things now in the last 12 months or so. Um, but I think it's quite obvious now. She's definitely in a place where she is very used to that pressure, that main scene, all eyes on her kind of thing. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
very interesting. Very early prediction. What do you think the turnout of the match is actually going to be?
I think it's going to be a Bianca Belair win.
Hmm.
Picks up the Raw Women's Championship and does, goes on a run with that. Um, I saw maybe last week or so that WWE actually wanted, before Ronda was coming
Hmm.
back, they were actually planning on doing a 4 horsewoman main event,
I
which
read that
I think,
somewhere a while ago.
yeah, I think that could be pretty good. Something they could
Mm.
do at SummerSlam.
Hmm.
Especially if Becky drops the belt, Ronda takes the belt from Charlotte, then that
Mm.
frees up all 4 horsewomen with nothing else to really do, and they can just kind of go for each other at SummerSlam as to who's the best of the 4 horsewomen. So I
Mm.
think that could be a program for Becky and to keep them busy after Mania. But Bianca has to win. I keep saying it, Bianca and Rhea Ripley. Although Rhea
Hmm.
Ripley is in the last what 4 months or so, it's like they're
Hmm.
course correcting everything they've messed
Right.
up with Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. Very
Um,
true. Very
but
true.
yeah, I feel like Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley are the future of this women's division, like
Mm,
100%.
mm,
It's
mm.
gonna be, it'll come to a time in a couple of years, they're gonna be hot potato in the belts between those two, like how
Right.
Sasha and Charlotte used to
Mm,
back
mm,
in
mm.
2015, 2016. So yeah, Bianca Belair has to win that. Do you see any other outcome than that?
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Becky Lynch win. Um, and I don't even see that as necessarily a bad thing. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of Becky,
Mm,
and I'd love to see Bianca win at Mania and kind of add that to the 20 million achievements she's done in the last 12 months.
mm,
I wouldn't be surprised, and there was still a level of sense it would make in terms of establishing Becky. She only came back in at SummerSlam. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's not even a year ago. Um, and she's been on a run. It wouldn't surprise me if that carries on for a little bit, and to be able to then beat Bianca adds even more. I mean, she's beaten Liv, she's beaten Doudrop, but they're not established stars.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? She hasn't yet beaten an established star since becoming champion. So it wouldn't surprise me. And again, part of me believes as well, I'd maybe be a little bit surprised to see both titles change hands, both women's titles change hands over WrestleMania weekend.
Okay.
So if we're expecting Ronda to win,
Mm.
I kind of don't expect Bianca then to follow. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
do. I think both are going to change hands.
Okay.
Um, However, I'm in agreement with you. I don't mind Becky retaining,
Mm.
but and this is one thing WWE don't do often. But if Becky is going to retain, I feel we need some type of shift in character from Bianca. She can't just lose again and take it. She's lost at SummerSlam. I think somewhere in between SummerSlam and Becky moving over to Raw, she lost to Becky again in a singles match. I think Becky cheated or something like that, held a bottom rope in a singles match. She lost to Becky at Saudi in October. I think Sasha Banks was involved in that match. She can't just lose to Becky again at WrestleMania and stay the same hair swinging person.
Right.
Like something needs to change in her. Like she needs to, I don't know, become tapped or something. Like there has to be some, internal conflict.
Right.
Like, why can't I beat Becky? You see what I mean? And I know WWE tend to not go that deep into stories and stuff like that. But you can't lose to someone, 3 to 4 times and then you're still the same.
Still the same. I mean? Especially in the same demeanor that Bianca is, or skipping down to the ring and all that kind of thing. I completely agree. Actually, it's not even something that I really thought about, but yeah, it's right, because I guess we kind of wanted or almost expected that when she lost to Becky, and also as well wanted and expected that in the lead up to a WrestleMania match last year with Sasha as well.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. There definitely needs to be some kind of shift if she doesn't win. What that shift is arguable or is up for discussion, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a complete heel turn.
Yeah.
But there definitely has to be, as you said, some kind of internal conflict, some kind of question of her own abilities, maybe, all that kind of stuff. How that plays out, again, I don't know if I can trust WWE creative to give it us in the best way. But we need to see something. But yeah, I say this often about wrestling in general, but I like the fact that there's no obvious outcome with this match. I do like that. I feel as though with Ronda and Charlotte, there's an obvious outcome. It'd be pointless for Ronda to be even here if the outcome wasn't happening that way. And Ronda walking away with that championship. Staying with the ladies, but speaking of SmackDown, so we saw Ronda team up with Naomi as well at Elimination Chamber. They took on Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville, defeated those two. Now, this is something that I heard the discussion. I was watching another discussion with our friend Gerard, TK Trinidad, the other day, and they were talking about black wrestling in general, but they focused quite a bit on Naomi. Something that they mentioned, and I thought, you know what, it's very true. That match itself, the standout was Naomi. And during their discussion, they were questioning, why are we still seeing this whole thing? And we've asked this question as well before a number of times. Why are we still getting this whole thing where it's almost like WWE feel like Naomi has to prove herself in some way? And she's done it over and over again. She obviously had that great match that she had with Charlotte as well last week, Friday. I think, was it for the championship?
Title. Yeah, for the title.
It was for the title as well. I really hope, and I made this comment while they were having a discussion the other day, I really hope that this whole thing with Sonya culminates at WrestleMania, if not before. And it almost has to set up Naomi for a legit, not just a match for the championship, but a proper feud and a run. Because, she's faced Charlotte Flair 3 times in the last 5 weeks. Twice has been for the championship, but of course, Sonya Deville's been in the mix, and that's what the story's been about. Not so much Naomi for the championship.
Yeah.
Surely, with this whole foolishness with Sonya, we still not even understanding or know why Sonya actually has a problem with her. But surely this should set up for a win for Naomi at WrestleMania or before, and then she becomes the legit number 1 contender for that championship. What What else is there?
There is, and again, this is them needing to create new stars, and ultimately, Naomi is not a new star. She has been a ever present at WWE for 10 years now, but they haven't treated her at any real point consistently like she's been a star. Apart from when she's held the women's title, she got injured. They gave it to her back in Orlando, her hometown. There's just a lack of plans for Naomi at the top level. I don't know what it is. And you put her into these situations and she doesn't disappoint. She really doesn't disappoint. Her and Charlotte was such a good match. Such a good match. I told you I was kicking myself. I didn't have a chance that weekend to review that match and put a video up because it was so good. Then this Elimination Chamber match was very good as well. Like you said, she needs to get a match with Sonya Deville. Let's just kill off this Sonya Deville thing. You know, if Naomi wins, Sonya becomes an active competitor again, loses her authority. I saw something today, which I was actually I had saved here, and I'm gonna share with you. I'm gonna show you. Yeah. At the very minimum, what if we got this? A tag team with Naomi and Cameron, for our audio listeners that can't see. Showing a picture of a tag team of Naomi and Cameron. Because right now, what are they doing with the women's tag team championships?
Is that even a thing? I forgot that was even, you know what? I forgot that was even a thing.
Zelina Vega, Carmella are the women's tag team champions. There are no other tag teams around, right?
Literally no other.
At the very minimum, you brought back Cameron for the Royal Rumble. It was just a one and done, clearly. But if you're speaking to her, maybe get her in for WrestleMania. A little three-way dance between Carmella, Zelina defending against Naomi and Cameron, and maybe the Bellas. The Bellas have talked about coming back. They've talked about being tag team champions, and they've said they're not coming back full time, but they will come back. This is a quick WrestleMania program. Like you can put the belts on Naomi and Cameron, and you know, not that these belts mean much at this point, but
right.
It's more visible than Zelina and Carmella right now. Those two have hardly been seen together in the same shot with those titles for weeks. I've been tracking it for weeks. This week, they even went and put Carmella and Corey Graves' new reality TV show, and there's no talk of Carmella as a tag team champion. They might have even, you know, just let's take these belts and just
expanded
quietly get rid of it. Like, I don't know, like, but I'm 100% with you that Naomi, off the back of just her last few, you know, programs and work she's been doing, needs a spot at WrestleMania this year.
And you know, I've said it before, where you know this whole program with Sonya, it excited me at first because I was just seeing it as, you know, it wasn't what we wanted or expected. We were all talking about, you know, her joining the Hurt Business first, and then, you know, she got moved to SmackDown. And like, okay, surely she has to join her husband with the Brotherhood and all the rest of it. But we got this whole thing with Sonya. But I was like, right, we're gonna get a Naomi win, you know, and then it's gonna push her to whatever. This whole thing has been what, three months long at least.
I think that's too short. I think it's been going for longer than that. Like it's been 3 months where Sonya has kind of actively been involved in terms of the matches and stuff. But her, you know, this started with like Naomi and Shayna, and Sonya having other foils for herself. So this has been going on for a while, bro.
And obviously we had weeks and weeks and weeks of Naomi just trying to find Sonya Deville. Like running around arenas trying to find Sonya Deville, and asking her, you know, when am I going to get a match and blah blah and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's been so long. So that has to, I almost kind of see it as similar to what happened with Lashley about 2 years ago, when he was in that whole thing, you know, that crazy stuff with Leo Rush when he was showing off his behind. Then, you know, the whole madness with the whole Lana storyline. And it was almost like a test, you know, almost like a very cruel initiation or test to see whether they're good enough to be in the main event. And then obviously we've seen what's happened with Lashley from there. We'll talk about Lashley in a second. But I'm hoping and hoping it's a very similar thing with Naomi. She's been put through this program that isn't the best thing for her. Another thing that they mentioned actually in this talk that I watched as well was this whole thing of having to put Naomi with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you had her teaming with Lana when Lana came back for whatever reason, I don't know. Then weirdly for like 2 or 3 weeks, Xia Li was saving Naomi. Where's Xia Li now? For what reason? But finally we're getting Naomi on her own. Yes, she had the match with Ronda, but all in all, Ronda's the bigger star. So it kind of made sense. And it was obviously, we know it's going to be Ronda and Charlotte. And it was just a bit of a mashup between those 4 ladies. So we're seeing now Naomi doing her own thing, being a singles competitor, being very, showing that she can be on her own with Charlotte as well. So I'm just hoping the stars are finally aligning to the point where we're pushing Naomi back to where we want her to be, where she should be, and being in the same conversation on a regular basis, a consistent basis with your Charlotte Flairs, and whoever it is that's holding that championship. I mean, I don't even know who else is on that SmackDown women's roster that is anywhere.
There's not a lot of top. There's Charlotte at the top, Ronda at the top. Sasha Banks is never there. It hurts me that Sasha's never there. I know she's probably out here doing some great stuff, but I need to see Sasha on the TV. She's never there. Natalia has been used and rubbished. As good as a talent she is, no one wants to be seeing her win championships. Aaliyah, not ready. Shotzi, they were hot on her when she came in, and not really anymore. It's Naomi is there. Naomi is there to be used. Of course, we've got the likes of Asuka and Bayley that are unsigned. They don't have a roster they don't belong to, so that could always bolster a SmackDown roster. But yeah, bro, like you were just saying as to how they use these guys, and then eventually it's like you've proven yourself. I always call it's the WWE holding pattern.
Right.
When you're pilots, when they're flying an airplane, if they come in too early, they have to fly around in the sky. They have to just keep circling and flying around in the sky until there's place, for them to land. They're going around in that holding pattern, and then when WWE are almost ready for you to come down and land, that's when they use you, like we saw with Lashley and other people, like you mentioned. So yeah, Naomi's just been in that pattern for too long. But yeah, hopefully.
And like you said, there's literally no one else after Charlotte and Ronda. And for me, Ronda's questionable, but she's a draw at the end. If nothing else, which she kind of is nothing else, she's a draw. So you can't deny her that space because of that alone. But after those two, there really is just Naomi, who is the only other person who feels like a legit champion.
That could be that the crowd are behind as well.
Right. And that's the thing, bro. That's the other thing, man. That's so frustrating. The crowd are always. I've never known a time, whether I've been a major fan or kind of questioning or not sure what's going to happen with her, the crowd has always been behind Naomi. And this is why I just don't get this such a long time of not capitalizing on that. And that's the frustrating part. But it's almost like WWE do this thing often where when it's not what they decided, they will be dead set against it on purpose. So we'll see what happens there.
Just to finish off on this before we move on. Batman 901 says, do you think WWE rushed Bianca to the main event last year, WrestleMania? I don't think so. I think she has been perfectly handled since she's been called up, which we can't say a lot of for NXT talents. What do you think?
I think it's exactly the same way, and to be able to say that about a black female is phenomenal. As you said, many NXT stars have come up over the years, especially those that are, Triple H's NXT stars, and have just been misused, thrown away, sacked.
Yeah.
And Bianca's still here. And with the way that she has been used is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. I don't know, even Sasha's run wasn't, or first couple of years on the main roster wasn't as good as Bianca's has been. I guess it's only really Charlotte Flair, Paige that have had better runs coming from NXT as female talents. So for her to be in that small number of great females is crazy, and she's still up there. And as you said as well earlier on, that even during this time that she hasn't been, the champion, or since she lost it to Becky, she's still being used, in a way that, she's staying strong. We're being reminded just of how good she is, and that she is next in line for Becky, but because of Becky's influence, someone else has come through, like a Liv or Doudrop, and even the way Doudrop got her chance was because Becky stepped in. You know what I mean? In that number one contenders match. So yeah, going all the way back to the question, no way do I think that Bianca was rushed at all. It felt weird in the lead up, as we talked about before, because it just felt as if they wasn't too sure what to do. So it kind of tarnished the build up and how important the match was and all that type of thing. And that didn't help. But at the same time, no fault of Bianca's. It wasn't she's too green for it, or she wasn't ready, or anything like that. She was just misused. Basically. So yeah, man, she's in a great position, used correctly, and it's very, very rare, whether black, white, male or female, that we get to say that about any superstars. In the last few years, it's always been a very different narrative. In general, to be fair. So
she's been booked very well. And I like this comment before we move on. E. Smith 4 says Naomi is like the Cesaro of the women's division, just pushing her for like a second. It's a very good comparison. It's like you know what you have, but you don't give them all of it. With Cesaro, I feel like that's because for him there may be some deficiencies, in how round he is as a superstar. Like talking on the mic, stuff like that. Naomi, I don't really feel there's many deficiencies. They just don't want to give her the ball to run with. But it's a good comparison.
Very, 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 very close comparison. Very strong one indeed. We're sticking with the WWE, and I mentioned his name earlier, Bobby Lashley. It's a very weird thing that's happening at the minute, especially after you watch Raw yesterday. But let's go back to Elimination Chamber. So Bobby Lashley was the WWE champion. The Elimination Chamber match main event was for his WWE championship. And he started out in one of the pods. It was Seth Rollins and Austin Theory who started the match, and two went at it. Seth did his whole little buckle bomb, but it was Austin Theory who went crashing through Bobby Lashley's pod. Bobby Lashley crashed to the floor in not the most convincing way, especially to sell a concussion or even a shoulder injury. I already knew about the shoulder injury before that thing happened. So to see him on the floor, I'm like, right, did he hurt his shoulder? Is that what he's holding? Is that what got hit? Because it definitely wasn't. Then to hear it was concussion, I'm like, huh? When did he hit his head? How did he hit his head for a concussion? Huh? So anyway, we had this whole thing, and Lashley was taken out of the arena. Something to do with concussion protocol, and all the rest of it. Only to find out, of course, that he has a legitimate shoulder injury, which he sustained during his match with Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. It was quite obvious something went wrong, because the way he was landing on all of those suplexes that Brock Lesnar hit on him was just crazy. There had to be an injury from all of that. And apparently requires surgery and could be out for 4 months. Now, the weird part about it, we'll talk about how we feel about Lashley losing the title and all that kind of thing and how it happened. The weird part about it is, on Raw last night, we had Brock Lesnar in the ring, and I'm loving Brock Lesnar right now, if I'm honest. And I feel almost robbed that we haven't had this Brock Lesnar only till now. We've had this Brock Lesnar. I don't know why we never had that before. And Paul Heyman comes out and says, "Oh, I've got a roadblock. You have to defend your championship on the 5th of March in Madison Square Garden, one of the most famous stadiums in the world, against Bobby Lashley." Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Bro, share your thoughts. I'm gonna stop talking for a little bit.
I was as confused as you sound right now. Like, I was just like, I thought you man said he was injured. Now, firstly, with saying Bobby Lashley has a concussion, I feel like what they're trying to do, because it's the dirt sheets that have told us it's a shoulder injury.
Of course.
So what WWE are trying to do is control the narrative. They're trying to make their almighty WWE superstar not come off like a wuss by, a shoulder injury inside the pod or whatever the case is. This is concussion protocol. These are the rules. We have to protect him because he has hit his head. So I respect the fact they're trying to keep Bobby Lashley looking somewhat strong and credible.
Most definitely.
However, the news of the shoulder injury just came out like too fast alongside it. So it's like, fans we're all very confused. Is this a head injury or is it a shoulder injury? Paul Heyman has now said that you're defending the title, against him at Madison Square Garden, which, on another side note, is a night before AEW Revolution. So
Cody Rhodes at Madison Square Garden confirmed.
maybe, or I think maybe WWE maybe go down the petty road and they film Madison Square Garden and then put it on their network at the same time as Revolution. One or the other is happening, because I don't know why they mentioned that on TV. They never really do. But Brock Lesnar's not going to face Bobby Lynch. Brock Lesnar's not going to face Bobby Lashley because he's not available. So what was the entire point of this dialogue? Like, you've put a roadblock in front of him, which we know doesn't exist. We know that's not happening. So it was a bit confusing mentioning a man that we know is out. You've said he's gone to get surgery or gone to get checked out in Birmingham, Alabama, and all that kind of stuff by the doctor. The segment as a whole landed for me because Brock was very entertaining. Brock obviously just got to the main point of the segment, that he's going to be on SmackDown on Friday to confront Roman Reigns. But the whole roadblock, I thought it was actually Paul Heyman saying that we're getting like a roadblock pay-per-view like they used to do in March. Right. And then that wasn't the case either. So yeah, man, I just said I you lot have failed with this, but I get the whole overall point.
As you said, you respect the fact that they're still trying to do what they can to keep Bobby Lashley strong or seem strong or relevant, or that kind of thing, which is great, which is actually really good to see. I guess, of course, we find out these things quite often where, we've got the storyline injury, but then we find out the shoot injury.
Yeah.
I guess what's different with this isn't those two things. It's more so the fact that they've still decided to say that Bobby Lashley could possibly wrestle, whereas usually it's the injury and they're off TV. You know what I mean? Whether the injury is the real injury or not, whether they mention it to be the real one or whatever the storyline one is or whatever, they're off TV and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So I guess what hurts this whole thing is that they're still trying to say that Bobby Lashley is going to face someone. How they deal with this is going to be very intriguing, because we know he's not going to be there. How are they going to write that off? You know what I mean? And unless Bobby comes out at some point, or there's a segment where Brock attacks Lashley somewhere, somehow, and then he can't be part of the match. I'm not completely sure how they're gonna make this work, or why they even bothered. Like, they should have just said it's Seth Rollins or something, or you know what I mean, or a triple threat match or some. I don't know. I don't get it. There's this general talk of Brock Lesnar defeating every black WWE champion.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a stretch, guys. It's a little bit of a stretch. Now, I get it. We came very close to it. Yes, Brock Lesnar has definitely been the one to end, obviously, The Rock. That's when he became WWE champion for the first time in his own career, and the youngest champion as well. At that time, he of course defeated Kofi Kingston in that 9-second debacle that still needs to be fixed in some way. He beat Big E in a fashion that didn't need to happen, because it didn't need to be Big E that got pinned in that match. But he did not beat Bobby Lashley. Yes, Bobby was in the match. Yes, Bobby never walked out as champion. Two things happened here. Bobby wasn't even involved in the match, or wasn't able to even participate in the match. And two, obviously, he wasn't part of the decision. So can we please just stop with this whole Brock Lesnar has beaten every black champion? And you know what? I don't know whether this is me trying to be too nice, or trying to be or not even defensive, but defending WWE. A little part of me is a little encouraged by the fact that, Bobby Lashley wasn't used in the decision. Almost. I think I'm being maybe a little bit too optimistic here. Almost to the point where WWE thought about nah, we can't have that, because people get upset. Am I being too nice here? Am I being a bit too optimistic with that thinking?
I think you are being a bit optimistic. I think some fans said this as well, that well, it leaves the door open for them to do Lashley versus Brock Lesnar again, because Lashley's never been pinned by Lesnar. I said, give it a rest. Give it a rest. That is you're being optimistic. Like, let's be honest, because even when Lashley took the championship from Lesnar at Royal Rumble, it wasn't by his force. It wasn't by his, he basically crawled to a pin after Roman helped. In that match, could be because of injury. Now we know Lashley never looked dominant or anything during that match. He just didn't come across. You told us that these guys are equal, and like I said, that they don't look equal apart from in aesthetically they look equal. But you guys don't treat them like they're equals. You don't book them like they're equals. So Bobby Lashley versus Lesnar has lost all its glory for me. Yes, they can do it again. It's still open, because Lesnar hasn't beaten Lashley, quote unquote. But what, just for this match to be some, unbalanced affair, like where Lashley just eats pure pins, pure suplexes and gets pinned. Like, I can't say I care for it anymore. Like, and it's unfortunate, because they should have done, the job we all wanted to see. I didn't want the Greco wrestling match they gave us in the first one. I didn't want that. I wanted 10 minutes smash and grab, just pure carnage, barriers broken, and we didn't get that. So yeah, we can all see now, clear as day, Lashley is not on the level of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. He is several tiers below. Even if he's next up after those two, he's several tiers below. So he's not going to be booked accordingly. So the match doesn't do anything for me now if it is still on the table.
I completely agree. They've messed up the whole thing. We got excited. I genuinely got excited when the match was about to happen. I think maybe a week or so before, I was depleted again, because it just felt as though it was Brock win. going to happen. But then, you know, as they came out, all right, let's go. This is going to happen. The match happened. We got what we got. Or the ending wasn't the greatest. The match itself wasn't so bad. The match itself was fine, but the ending was just like, why? Yes, it leaves Lashley open to come back and legitimately say, I never got beat. But I just don't. I don't see Brock as champion, or you know, and he's not. I don't see him kind of doing a thing where he comes for Brock if he's not champion. That just wouldn't make any sense. He's gonna come for whoever's the champion, and that's how it should be, regardless of who that is. I'm definitely not seeing Brock and Bobby again in any way, shape, or form. We were actually lucky that it even happened in the first place, in the sense where it kind of accidentally happened. It wasn't planned before, 3 months before, or whatever else. It kind of like happened probably 2 weeks before they decided it was going to happen. That's not happening again. But I do love the fact that it is a thing where when Bobby comes back, he's coming back for whoever is the champion. It's going to be interesting to see, whoever leaves as, the undisputed champion at the end of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
With Brock or Roman, more than likely it's going to be Roman. Disney are going to step in, and we're going to have the WWE Magic Kingdom Championship. And that's the one that Bobby Lashley is going to come back for. I think we're going to see Lashley versus Reigns, possibly at SummerSlam. That would be a good way for me. That would be a good way to do it for me. And regardless, again, another one of those matches where regardless of the ending or whoever comes out on top, I'm not really fussed. It's just going to be very interesting to see if that happens. And they do have a little bit of a history. There was that whole thing a couple of years ago when Lashley was, was set to face Brock, but then Roman stepped in, beat him, and we had what we had with Reigns and Brock. But it's encouraging again to see that we have this legitimate black wrestler that WWE are very much invested in. And you were very right in saying that it's nowhere near the same investment as a Brock Lesnar or a Roman Reigns. Yeah. Nowhere near at all. And he is, I guess, the next one down. Then again, probably 2 more down because you've still got Seth Rollins up there. Arguably a Kevin Owens. Arguably, I don't know. Randy Orton's up there as well. And then we've got Bobby Lashley. But at the same time, we've seen a very, very good consistency for Lashley over the last year, just over a year. That in itself is encouraging. Yes, we've had a flurry or a little bit of a flourish with Big E. That seems to have completely disappeared. I don't know what the heck is happening with him and not the New Day and where that's going. I have no idea whatsoever.
It's a mess right now.
It is, but the sad part about Lashley being injured is that we're not going to have a Bobby Lashley right now. We're not going to have that legitimate black star who is the top star in the company or one of the top stars in the company. And there is no standout top black star in the company right now. It could have and probably should still be Big E, but that just hasn't been the case for at least a month or 2 now, especially after he lost his championship. Who could it actually? That's the question. Who could it be? With there being no Lashley, who is it? Who should it be? Who could it be?
They're gonna have to dig up Big E's grave and bring him out again. Like that's the only
5 count.
Yeah, like there isn't any. Our biggest star right now is Bianca Belair.
Yeah,
like that's it, and we're just hanging our hat on her. Bobby Lashley, maybe Big E. Big E more than anyone has probably been a victim of the timing of the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and all of this kind of stuff. So it's annoying, but hopefully they can reboot him. Like for none of them guys to be at Elimination Chamber was kind of weird, the New Day guys, but you've got to get them involved come Mania. So yeah, we'll see what they're doing.
We've got this whole lead up to Mania. We've got the Street Profits mingling with this tag team division. They lost yesterday, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out for them now. We've got Naomi doing what Naomi's doing. Again, it's another one of those. How is it actually even going to play out? Is it even going to mean anything? Even if she does win that final match with or that deciding match with Sonya Deville.
Yeah.
And then we've got Reggie.
Wow.
Well,
Reggie, you know.
We've got white-faced Reggie. I mean, that whole segment yesterday was just madness in every way, shape, or form.
Mate. Sports entertainment, isn't it?
The entertainment, you use that word very loosely. And sports.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It was just something. Just so sad. I mean, to then also see Dana Brooks clear extensions.
The back of her head.
Oh, God. I mean, I'm a guy with no hair. I know how bad that looked. I mean, oh God. And then Reggie comes up with his face white, like one of the white chicks.
Literally.
Blackish for warm-ups. Oh God. Let's not even go there. Let's move ourselves over to AEW very quickly. We've got about 10 minutes left of the show. We're seeing, you know what? This is actually quite exciting in a very different way. We're seeing qualifying matches now for this Face of the Revolution matchup that's going to happen on the first weekend of March. And I'm you know what? I'm already feeling like it should be called the Face of the Meat Grinder match, because the big men that are in this match so far is just big dudes. Now, it's nice to see, because in the very early stages of AEW, and up until about mid last year, there was no real focus on the big men. There was one or two. Wardlow was there, and of course Will Hobbs. Brian Cage was there. Neither of them were being used properly. We then saw Miro, thankfully, who had a very prominent position while he was fit, and all the rest of it. Had the TNT Championship. Lance Archer as well, of course, was involved in the AEW Championship match a few weeks ago. But for a very long time, there was no big men. It was a lot of this kind of very, reflective of the indies and the smaller guys and all that kind of stuff. Now we've already had 3 guys who have qualified for this match, and we've got Wardlow, Will Hobbs, and Keith Lee. I don't think I even need anyone else in that match. And to know that it's also a ladder match. We're getting big men on ladders. Yeah. I don't know whether that's the car crash or a car crash you actually want to watch. Like, it's gonna be crazy, bro. That just those 3 alone, and there's how many more to go? 3 more?
Another 3, yeah.
Wow.
At least, yeah.
I don't even want to be one of the other 3.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be very fun. Like, I imagine the other 3 are gonna be more of like the high flying style. Right. Maybe one of those other 3 could be a joker. They like to have these jokers come in, or maybe that's just going to be a 7th person. But we know Keith Lee and Wardlow are both very athletic, despite their size. So they're gonna fit right in. It's gonna be a very, very fun match. As I think we mentioned last week, all my money is in Keith Lee's corner. I need him to win this match. I need him to go on and beat Sammy Guevara and become champion. But at the same time, if there's anyone that I want other than Keith Lee to win, it would be MJF. I'm sorry, Wardlow, because this story with MJF is bubbling, and I can only imagine MJF makes him do something like hand over the title if he wins or something like that, which will be great TV. But for Will Hobbs, I feel like this has sort of come out of nowhere. Like, Oh, have we lost a Dazzle? But yeah, like I was saying, I feel for Will Hobbs, this has come out of nowhere. That he hasn't been doing much recently. And now all of a sudden he's got this opportunity in this match, and it's super interesting to see, you know, if Will Hobbs can challenge the likes of a Keith Lee, if Will Hobbs can challenge the likes of a Wardlow, or is he just kind of given this position just to, keep him busy over the next few weeks and that. Be very interesting. While we're waiting for Adrian to join back, I don't know if you guys put some comments into the chat, and I can see what you guys are saying about the matter. But yeah, I think having Wardlow, Keith Lee, and Will Hobbs in this match, it's very, very interesting. 2 secs. Adrian's just trying to rejoin. So yeah, I don't know who else we can see coming into this match. I don't know who else we can see, because Dante Martin would have been someone good, and obviously he is out now by Will Hobbs. I would love to see someone like a Swerve Scott get into this match. If we could get Swerve, I know he's kind of all around England at the minute, going to different places. So I don't know if he'll be available next weekend, which is when the Revolution pay-per-view takes place. But yeah, some other names are on in and around the card could be interesting. E. Smith says here, seems like they just need another beef man to get on. I don't even know who that could be at this point. Lance Archer. I guess Lance Archer's not doing nothing because Lance Archer's recently lost to Hangman Page for the title. So Lance Archer could be another big man to get involved. Brian Cage obviously still works for the company, even though we haven't seen him in a long time. Miro could be very good. Any one of those guys, getting them involved could be very, very interesting. Yeah, Yusuf Omar, he says here, Miro. But more than anything, I think that we need to now make this tournament mean something. We were saying this. We see casino battle royales. We see these Revolution ladder matches. If the winner doesn't go on to beat the champion, then these matches are going to become, what do you call it? It's going to practically become like pre-show stuff because it's meaningless. You see what I mean? It don't mean nothing. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with the rest of the field of this, the other 3 people that's going to join this match. But yeah, very, very interesting. And like I say, good for Will Hobbs to get himself into the match. But guys, I think Dazzle's having issues coming back onto the stream. We're almost at the hour mark anyway, so I'll call it a day here. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Of course, myself, WrestleManiac UK. Mex, you can get me on Instagram, WrestleManiac.uk. You can get me on Twitter on WrestleManiac UK, and A Dazzle on Twitter. He's Black Wrestling A, and on Instagram, Black Wrestling Alliance. We'll be back same time next week. We hope you can join us, and we hope that A Dazzle has found his way back into the chat. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll speak to you soon.